To the Urbanna, Planning Commission. I'm calling the meeting to order. The first thing that we have is approval of electronic participation. We have no request, so we'll move on. Roll call of members. We have Ms. Caskey and Mr. Longest not with us this evening, but we do have a quorum with Gary Lister, Mary Hanson, and Katie Wilson. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, no abstentions. Thank you. The first matter is the organizational matter. This is the first meeting of the Planning Commission for 2025. So the first item is the election of the chair and vice chair. Once the election of the chair has been concluded, I will turn the gavel over to the new chair. So with that, do I have a nomination for the election of the chair for 2025? By Robert's rules, I have to ask 3 times. So I'm going to ask a second time. Do I have a
Okay.
nomination for the chair? It's going to make running the meeting a little difficult, but
Yeah,
yes, you
yeah.
can. Do we have a
I
nomination?
nominate Katie Wilson. You can decline.
I don't really want to, honestly, if somebody else is willing.
And the third one?
I will agree to be chair if Katie agrees to be vice chair.
What does the vice chair do?
Serves in the absence of the chair, if the chair is not, can't attend.
Are you going to stay on the commission? I need to ask. Just checking.
Well, I'm the council liaison, so it's an assignment for me.
You'll excuse me. I left a cheat sheet in my printer. I'll be right back.
Oh, go get your cheat sheet, please.
I only ask because I really can't have anything else up. I've got too much on my plate right now.
No, I get it.
So
But this,
It's-
but
this
heading
is-
up doesn't add extra.
It really does.
don't
really
email.
You lead the
well.
meeting. No, you lead, it's, no, you
no.
lead the meeting.
Mhm.
The way it is now.
Not the way it
doesn't.
is now.
Really, it's different. It
Mhm,
doesn't.
mhm.
So taking them one at a time, we have a nomination for Ms. Hanson as the chair. Any others?
For Katie Wilson, we have a nomination.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, for Katie. I'm sorry. Yep, for Katie Wilson. I'm sorry. Katie, for chair? No, okay.
If you chair, I will vice chair. I just.
Okay.
That's kind of where I thought we were. It was,
Yes,
okay.
I can.
All
can
right,
do
so
that.
we have a nomination for Mary Hanson. Any others? Hearing none, I'll close the nominations and ask for the vote. All in favor of Ms. Hanson serving as the chair for 2025, please say so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? All right. I'm more than happy to turn the gavel over.
Okay. All right. And do we have a nomination for vice chair?
Nominate Katie Wilson.
Okay, any discussion?
It's really not that.
No.
That's what famous last words, right?
No,
No.
I know. I would.
Everybody always says that, and I'm like,
I
No.
would not mislead. I really
No.
wouldn't. I get
Yeah.
it. You got
Yeah.
the kids and
Right.
there, and then I get it. I wouldn't.
Right.
I'm
mislead.
already the head of a lot of stuff, so I don't really need it more.
Okay. And so we have a nomination for Katie Wilson to be vice chair. And do I have motion to accept, to vote for Katie Wilson as vice chair?
I'll move to vote for Katie Wilson as vice chair.
Okay, and those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all right. So Katie Wilson will serve as vice chair. Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is the setting date, time, and place of meetings. We have to decide this every year, and since this is our first meeting of the year, that's why we're doing it now. And okay. The current schedule is that we do the second Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. at council chambers here, which are current council chambers. And that is what it has been. And as you know, if we don't have a matter that we need to hear or make decisions on, we cancel the meeting.
Mhm.
But we have that as a placeholder. Apparently, Ms. Caskey has indicated that Tuesdays are not good for her. And there is a question of whether or not we may wish to move to Monday preceding the second Tuesday or Wednesday following the second Tuesday.
So meeting the second Monday or meeting the second Tuesday.
Well, it could be the second Tuesday and be the first Monday, I suppose.
All depends on how the calendar
Yeah.
falls.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I have a standing appointment on Mondays, evenings.
Okay, so that would be
Wednesdays
hard.
would be my best, but I'm willing to.
how
be
are
flexible
Wednesdays
Tuesday,
for you,
Wednesday.
Gary?
Wednesdays are okay.
Wednesdays are as okay as any other day for me.
Okay.
Okay, so what do we have to do to adopt the second Wednesday?
Just
Of
follow
the
the
month.
motion that you're going to use the second Wednesday.
Okay,
at
so
6 p.m.
I move that we set the meetings of the Urbana Town Planning Commission as the second Wednesday of each month at 6 PM at council chambers. And so let's take a vote. Those in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, no nays. So be it. All right, anything else on that I need to do? Nope, moving along. Okay, so now we're at approval of the minutes of the July 23rd and November 12th meetings. And let's start with the July 23rd minutes. Actually, it looks like we can make a motion for both of them. So let's see, are there any suggested amendments to either set of minutes, July 23rd or November 12th? Okay, I didn't see any either. So I move to approve the July 23rd, 2024 and November 12th, 2024 minutes as presented without any amendments. Let's take a vote. So aye.
Aye.
Okay. And so we have adopted the minutes as presented. So now we get to the public hearing portion, which is what all of y'all are here for, is the public hearing. And I will turn that over to our town administrator.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a public hearing held under the authority of 15.2-2204 Code of Virginia 1950 as amended. The necessary public notices have been given and the application materials have been and are available for review and the office is here. The location of this special use permit application 01 for 2025 is 181 West Avenue. The property owner is Hallinski Properties LLC. The applicant is Zack Lapinski. This is for the construction of an additional dwelling unit above a storage area in a detached 26 by 26 accessory structure, anticipating construction of a single family primary residence. The acreage is 0.27. It's also identified as property tax map number 20A27C. The zoning is residential. It is involved as is the entire town in the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Overlay District. The use of the property right now is vacant, but for an accessory building identified on the plat as a cinder block building to be removed with a mixed history between occupancy and storage. Based on the definition of a dwelling unit, the existing building would not be a complete dwelling unit due to the lack of cooking equipment, kitchen, limiting the use of the separate living, limiting its use as a separate living unit. And this is based on actual interior inspection that the applicant allowed me to undertake. The adjacent composition is residential and primarily zoned residential. The environmental is obviously having to do with the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act. So anything built on the lot is going to increase the impervious surface, but that can be mitigated through the standard requirements of under the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act. The comprehensive plan under the land use goals and objectives would encourage harmonious use of the land as the area is, again, primarily residential. As proposed, the structure's placement is in conformance with the zoning ordinance. It meets all of the standard setbacks. The configuration of the lot and the imposition of the setbacks leaves a significant area of open space and would not unreasonably impair or unreasonably impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property as found in section 17-9.4A of the Urbana Town Code. Various agencies, to include the Virginia Department of Transportation and contractors, were contacted for comments on the case. No comments outside of routine development requirements were received. Still, condition number 2 is intended to limit egress and ingress to Kent Street, which reduces points of conflict along the heavier traveled cross street. New construction generally enhances the value of surrounding properties, thus no impairment of adjacent land values is likely. Condition 3 is proposed for further enhancement. Proposed conditions 1, 4, and 5 are standard. Staff finds per the above earlier cited section of the Urbana Town Code, the proposed use would not have an adverse effect on the surrounding neighborhood, so that favorable action is recommended of the special use permit request with the conditions noted below. Be happy to take any questions you might have.
Which one is Kent Street again? Because I thought it was West and Cross.
Western
Cross.
Cross, yeah.
But what's Kent?
I'm sorry, you know what?
Is that an error?
That is an error from prior report. Yep.
Okay.
What should it
So
be?
it should be west.
West.
West
It
Street?
should be West Street.
Okay.
Yep.
And you
Okay.
said it's a cinder block building now? Because I didn't see one. I saw.
Yeah,
like
you
a
have to
wooden
look
shed
if
looking
I.
thing.
I want to come.
Okay.
Right there, it's a little white dotted square.
Okay.
That's the cinder block.
Is that between the mayor's house and your house?
Let's see, the mayor's.
Like-
the
Oh,
mayor's
no,
house is on the
sorry,
corner.
sorry. This is just that one plot land. Okay. Okay.
So it's that right there.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And shadowed out a little bit. That's where it is.
Is it the red, is it the red building, the red house?
Okay.
No, I'm so confused.
Be happy to take any questions that you have as opposed to open floor.
I have questions.
Yeah, because it doesn't look.
Yes, ma'am.
I have questions, and again, there's not supposed to be discussion at this point. I'm sorry. I know it's frustrating. Okay, thank you. I have questions about this permit request is coming through as a request for an ADU. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I know that there was code that was passed in a year ago in the legislative session regarding ADUs. And it's my understanding that there has to be an existing residence on the property where an ADU is added, not that the ADU comes before a residence. I may be wrong on that. Can you speak to that issue, please?
I'd be happy to. It's not just ADUs, it's any accessory building,
Any
any
accessory
accessory
building.
use. So you can't just build a storage shed on a lot without there being a house.
Or a
um,
garage on a
or a
lot.
garage,
Okay.
without there being a house. It's my understanding this is being done collectively, that the two structures are going to be built at the same time. That's a better question for the applicant, but that's my understanding is that this is going forward at the same time.
Okay, is that permissible by our ordinance?
Well, actually, there's couple ways of looking at this. One way is if the structure, the proposed storage structure has all the elements of, okay, so let me point to them.
Mhm. Of a residence,
If this storage structure
right?
has all the elements, the 4 elements that are contained in the definition on the first page,
Okay.
has all the 4 elements of a dwelling unit,
Mhm.
then that's your principal, that's your principal unit,
Right.
okay? They come back later, they build a second one.
Uh-huh.
That would be covered by this if it's approved,
Okay.
okay?
And then
He could
could
flip
you
the
tear
order.
down the original one if you wanted to and
Well-
rebuild the residence that you wanted to build?
The one that's there now, that's going to be torn down.
Ye-
Uh,
But if you had a residence,
Mhm.
there's no residence there now,
There's no
correct?
residence there now.
Okay, there's nothing that meets the definition of a residence.
Correct.
So the current storage shed that doesn't have cooking area, bathroom area, sleeping area, doesn't qualify as a residence.
That's correct.
Okay,
So that's a non-conforming use.
yes,
My understanding is this was a larger tract of land.
Yeah.
And when they subdivided it, wherever the lines fell is where the lines fell.
okay.
So that shouldn't have been allowed to happen.
that, and you are pointing
To
at
the-
the storage
to the
shed.
remaining
The
structure that's
remaining
there.
Storage
Yeah,
shed is
that
what
should
the
not have been allowed to
town
happen.
administrator is pointing at.
This clears, what's been proposed is taking that
Yep.
out, that clears that
Right.
problem. So you can either call the first thing built
Okay.
as the
Oh, I
principal
see.
unit,
I see. Now I'm tracking.
or the second thing built as the second unit. It just depends on how you want to do it.
Okay, so if the first thing built
Mhm.
was the proposed garage with,
With all the elements,
with all the elements and the apartment above it,
that becomes the principal
then
use.
that becomes the principal residence. Okay, and then building an additional residence.
Would be covered by this special use permit if it was approved.
Okay, now if it was approved as an ADU, there's a square footage limit on that, isn't there?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought it was 1,200 square feet for an ADU.
Um,
I don't,
I'm not aware of that.
you're not aware of
I'm
that.
not
So it
aware
could
of
be
that.
4,000 feet or it could be anything and be considered an ADU.
I've always considered, my first house was 800 square feet. It had a kitchen, it had a bath,
Yeah.
it had a bedroom, it had a living room.
Okay. So we
Yeah.
don't know if there's a limit on the number of square
I-
feet as
I'm
a
not aw-
definition
I'm not aware
definition
of
of an
one.
ADU. Okay.
But the point is that if this is approved, they don't need to come back for approval
For the
Yes.
second one.
for
Correct.
the primary or second resident.
Yeah. Any other
And-
questions?
Is this our only question period or can we have another question?
You can question
period
your staff.
after?
You can question your staff anytime you want to.
But in the
Yeah.
meeting,
Yes,
I
well,
mean, based on the applicant's presentation, can
right.
we have an additional? question
absolutely.
period?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Katie, do you have any other questions right now?
Oh, I was trying to Google your question though, but I don't.
The applicant will be next.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. I have no presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions because it seems a little confusing. So kind of open up to y'all and help clarify anything that might be useful.
What do you think would help us be less confused?
Like you referenced, like the size of a building that would be a secondary use. So
Uh-huh.
like Ted explained, everything that we're applying for conforms inside of the zoning ordinance. So the primary residence or the ADU all fit inside of what the buildable area is, which is defined and termed, or really, I guess the word's defined by the zoning ordinance. So your setback requirements,
Yeah.
all of those such things. So our proposed size is a 32 by 33, which is about 1,200 square feet.
And
then
that's for which?
this farther piece here,
But is that for the residence or the ADU?
it could be either one. It could be either one. So there's one building that's proposed as a 33 by 32 and the other one's proposed as a 26 by 26. So as Ted explained, it just depends on which one's built. Either one can be legally deemed as a dwelling unit, while the secondary unit, whichever built is second, is deemed as the ADU.
Okay.
Are we allowed to know the purpose of the two different buildings or is that stated?
Well, I think in order for them to be conforming, they both have to have residential living areas. They have to
Correct.
have the
If they're both,
bathroom,
they're
they have
both full legal zoned dwelling units.
Right.
I'm not looking for, I'm not putting a hotel, an apartment or a 4-story building or anything like that. I've even proffered, the size of the buildings can't exceed over 35 feet, which is what the zoning ordinance calls for. So everything that, and I'm willing to put, voluntary proffers on top of that, like as Ted explained, 1 through 4, with some voluntary proffers that were referenced in that conditions. With 3 being recommended, I don't have any problem at this podium saying that we can easily apply that.
Can I ask you, and
Sure.
maybe I'm just not remembering.
Yeah,
but
sure.
did You say that 35 was the limit that a building could be? That,
I think the zoning ordinance calls for,
and I apologize. I didn't
no,
look at
you're
it.
okay. I've got it right here. Let me pull it. It says, height standard 17-4.26, principal buildings and accessory buildings shall not exceed 3 stories or 35 feet in height, whichever is less.
Okay, and height. I thought you meant width.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like sort of how big.
The width can fit anything, I'm gonna walk up here, but anything in this dotted line is, these dotted lines are the legal building, like the buildable areas.
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
Like
Right,
per the zoning ordinance. So
Right.
anything that fits within those
yep,
is legally allowed to be built. So anyways, these are just our proposed sizes. There's a lot of building codes that have to be amended that also supersede certain zoning things. So that's why you can't build a house that touches a garage unless they're conjoined for fire code. But anyways, we don't have any access proposed onto Cross Street either. Both residents are accessing through West Avenue. So that, again, here's your drive access. Wait, so this 26 by 26, here's your drive access on West. This has no conjoined garage parking or anything designed for this. So there is no direct facing drive alley or parking area or such on Cross Street.
I'm reading that ADUs are generally smaller than the primary dwelling. Local zoning ordinances may specify a maximum square footage for ADUs, often between 1,000 and 1,200 square feet. But we don't have such
I'm going to read the
such limitations in our ordinance.
Yeah, per the definitions in the Urbanna Town Code, accessory building or structure is an accessory building or structure, subordinate building, or a portion of the main building that is used, which is clearly incidental to a customary found in connection with, and except as otherwise provided in the chapter, is located on the same lot as the main building or principal use of the land. It has nothing, there's no definition in the town count or town code that
Right.
says like
Okay.
a limit on square footage or finished
Okay.
square footage.
Okay, so that is something that would have to be by change to an
I think
ordinance.
what you just read, the word may,
Yes,
is permissive. It's not mandatory.
right, right.
Yeah, is that in the definition somewhere? I'm just
Um,
not familiar with it.
It's in the guidance for the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's not in,
It's not in the ordinance.
it's not in our ordinance,
Got
but
it.
that's where my thinking was
Right.
coming from.
Got it.
That it's an accessory, it's not the primary residence, but I think in order to be conforming, it would have to be considered the primary residence before building an accessory to the primary residence.
Again, well,
I'll let you come up.
this is Michael. Again, they can either be, the permits can either be issued at the same time,
Uh-huh,
or the permit for the larger structure can be issued, and then the smaller structure, or the smaller structure, and then the larger structure. The question before you this evening basically boils down to, do you want two principal uses on one lot? That's really what it boils down to. One being a primary residence, one being a guest house, additional dwelling unit, whatever,
Yep.
however it may be used.
Yeah, I'd like to read just permitted uses and structures 17-42-2. Number 7 says accessory buildings and uses. These are by right. Accessory buildings and uses, including but not limited to accessory private garages, storage buildings, workshops, farm buildings, structures, servant quarters, caretakers quarters, guest houses, swimming pools, tennis courts, and similar recreational facilities are by right.
mhm,
Additional dwelling units are an SUP or special use permit.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there is a little conflicting definition between the two,
Right.
but and that's
Right.
why we wanted to come forth and just
It's a use distinction.
use
It's a
distinction.
use distinction. If it's used as an ADU, it requires a special use permit. If this was for an application for a swimming pool, wouldn't be
Uh-huh.
here.
uh-huh,
Be
right,
done administratively.
right.
Yeah.
And I understand, Ted, that for you, it's the question of permitting two primary dwelling units, basically.
I think that's what it boils down.
What
for
it boils
you all.
down to. I want to make sure that, because I don't know, we haven't dealt with this before. I don't know if it's been dealt with in Urbana before, but I want to make sure that we don't create unfairness or confusion for others building ADUs.
I can help answer that.
You-
So
You have had one prior request.
Okay, tell me about that.
That was actually the one on Kent Street, that it was an existing house with an existing garage.
Uh-huh.
They converted the garage into the secondary dwelling unit.
Which makes sense to me, but
Right.
this is
This-
an
this is-
ADU after,
This is a timing, the distinction is in
which
timing.
one comes
it's a
first?
timing. It's the same process, but yeah, you all approved and I don't know if I have the case number. I don't have the case number, but yeah, it was Colorado
Okay.
and Kent. It was approved in
Okay.
2024. It's the same process.
What would happen if we agreed to permit both and then you built the ADU first, which I think is what you've said your intention is?
It would become the primary, whatever's built first is the primary structure,
Okay,
and whatever's built second is the ADU. There is no like, I'm not trying to put like a townhouse or split the lot and
Right.
sell it or something like
Right,
that. Like this is
right.
all, I'm owning this internal. You know, I own a piece in Cross Street. So my second ownership building or piece in the county or really in the town.
okay.
So I'm not trying to, maybe that's where the confusion's coming. I'm not trying to split it or put two full-size dwelling
No,
units.
that's really not my
Okay,
question.
so I guess I'm confused on that.
Okay.
But I do think that boils down to the problem is, does it appear that way? I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You're not intention, but.
Would you like me to
others gonna look
proffer?
at-
Do you want me to proffer that I'm not gonna split the lot and
But-
sell it, 2 houses? Because I can't legally
No.
do that. I can,
I don't know that.
I can put a voluntary proffer that says that,
Yeah.
but
I don't know that
That we
we
need-
could,
Okay.
Yeah.
we could actually, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
legally I have no right or ability to split the lot. And so I have I have to come across with a
As to the
Right.
full
subdivision.
rezone. I have to
agent
come rezone it.
Right.
Yeah, so there's no, I don't have
Right.
a by right
Right,
ability. The ADU just gives the ability to have a secondary accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
So really, it's the Ken Street piece of the Colorado is a little different because there's 2 structures already built.
Mhm.
So they converted the garage
Yeah.
over. So now what I'm doing, I'm trying to go before I go that route
Yeah.
and build a garage and come
Yeah.
pull an ADU, which is another route I can do by right. I'd rather come forth and just be honest and straightforward
Mhm.
with what,
yeah. I
the goal is.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Again, I think the intent of an ADU is that it's in addition to a residence.
Ted, do you want to talk to, I mean, an ADU is an ADU. I mean,
It's
so
an accessory
it's an
dwelling
accessory
unit.
dwelling unit. So whatever is built second is the accessory dwelling unit. So
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah.
code is, that's what it falls under.
Madam Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
Mr.
And
Longest,
Mr. Longest, okay, let the
is
record reflect that
joining
Ricky
the-
Longest is present at 6:28. Welcome. Yeah, slide on in here.
and the question, I'm sorry, you asked me to make a distinction in your question.
What did
Um,
I ask?
It was the accessory.
Was I could have split the lot or which
No,
is
No.
no,
built
that
first?
was not it at
was-
all. Yes,
Yes.
right,
And
yes.
again, if it has those 4 structural elements, it's a dwelling unit.
And it doesn't matter whether it's the first or the second.
Doesn't matter if it's the first or the second, that's that timing piece. I think what you might be trying to get to the heart of the matter is it going to be 2 rental units? Is it going to be a
Well, that's
primary
another
with a guest
question.
house?
Yeah.
That's
No, it's
another
not gonna be 2
question.
rental units.
What is your intended use? And again, I
It's an
don't know.
ADU. So my by right, I'm gonna build a primary residence and then I
Uh-huh.
have an ADU. So if you want me to proffer that I won't rent my ADU, that's totally fine.
I don't,
Or I can do what the town code says, where I can rent it for 30 days and no less. I can't do short-term rentals on the
Right.
ADU. I'm more than happy to do that.
Because I do think that, I think that.
The perception is sometimes that's what the perception.
That would
Yeah.
be
I'll
concerning.
happily proffer that my
Yeah.
ADU is not gonna be rented for less than 30 days. That's what the town rule is. I'm not
Right.
doing a short-term rental.
right.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. That's voluntary. But the ADU is, so
Yeah.
whatever's built second, that's just like everyone else. So a primary right is to build a primary residence and
Right.
then
Yeah.
an ADU.
Okay, primary residence and then an ADU. And so you're saying that the primary residence would be the first one, which would be
Whatever's built.
basically the apartment over the garage.
What, yeah, it's a living space over a
Over a
storage,
garage.
over a storage, yeah.
Okay, even though most of us would not look at it and say that's the primary
Correct.
residence, we'd say that the larger,
Well, we don't know what the
residence.
final building's gonna be.
yeah,
So this is just
Yeah.
a tentative. I could build a 20 by 20, I could build a 10 by 10, I could build whatever I wanted.
So you're not at the point in your.
No,
Design. to
correct.
Know that.
Correct. I know the primary building I'm gonna build.
Is it changed like taxable, like square footage? You get taxed on square
Mhm,
footage, right?
right.
Correct, finished square
So is
footage.
that
Yes.
like which one you pick first affect?
I still get taxed either way
I
because
think
it's a
on both of
dwelling,
them.
it's a recorded dwelling
Yeah,
unit
okay.
with
I think
Middlesex
you
County.
do on
Yeah.
both. It doesn't
Doesn't
matter
matter.
which it is.
Okay.
Just like an unfinished garage, you won't get taxed on it, but if
Right.
any finished square footage where you get taxed.
Okay.
So one of the
But they'll
main,
do a-
one of the main distinctions then is that it's not just a garage. That
It's not a garage. I'm not,
it's would be.
not
an
asking for a
apartment.
garage. Yeah, I'm not
Uh-huh.
asking for an apartment either. Apartments for rent.
Okay, it's an ADU.
It's an ADU.
It's a dwelling
It's
unit.
a dwelling unit.
Okay,
It's an accessory dwelling unit. It's not a garage. It's not an apartment.
okay.
It's not a townhouse. It's an ADU.
And it's not, I think you said that you're tearing down the existing non-conforming
Correct.
structure.
Yes, that would be the
Okay.
plan. Yeah, once my plans get approved with the county, we go through all the normal
Right.
steps, that's when it would come down.
Right. What other questions or concerns do we have before we kind of summarize where we are so that Mr. Longest can even think about it?
Yeah, I'm happy to, I
So
can
this
sit
is
to
gonna
the
be a
side,
residence that you live in and then you may have a long-term rental.
maybe, at some point, if I ever build,
And
and
that's
if I
within the
build the
zoning
ADU,
ordinance?
if I
Yeah,
build the
yeah.
ADU, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know when I don't know when I'll build it. Could be tomorrow, could be 16 months. I
So
don't know
you're
what the economy's
talking
going
about
on.
building
Primary
a
residence first,
primary residence first.
which is what Ted said. The first thing built is your primary residence.
Uh-huh, the primary residence first, and also he's asking to have simultaneous permit to proceed with building an ADU,
No, asking for
accessory dwelling.
approval for an ADU.
not a permit, approval to
Yes.
build an ADU, and then he could proceed with a permit for that.
But the point being, there's no time restriction. It's
Right.
not like it's only a year and you have to
Right.
build.
No.
You would.
What, is there any kind of a,
Mm-mm.
yeah,
What's
Yeah.
so
the,
no.
the
What's the
special,
story?
the special, if you look at condition number 5, it has to be recorded in the clerk's office. So it runs with the land. It runs with the title of the land.
Right,
Okay,
So
Okay.
you could approve this tonight and 3 owners hence can come back and build the second unit.
yes, okay.
now if you want to I'll let y'all proceed. You'll keep
Okay,
going.
so far you have voluntary offered to proffer that the
ADUs,
approval of the ADU would be for either personal use or long-term rental. as
whatever the town,
defined.
yeah, there's no short-term rental allowed.
Right.
Unless approved by,
Right.
special counsel.
Were there any other proffers that I know you said a couple of things, but I'm not sure that they're
Did you jot
really
those down?
relevant.
Condition 4, I think, was one that came up earlier. That was like cleanliness. Or
Um,
condition
That
3.
was three.
Yeah.
That was
Three.
3.
That's voluntary.
Yeah. You've got suggested permit conditions. 1, all federal, state, and local laws
Yeah,
shall be
those are all-
observed at all times with,
Yeah,
okay.
those are all voluntary. Those are all
Okay.
proffered. That's fine.
And 2, no ingress or egress will be added to the cross street side of the
Correct.
property. 3, the property shall be maintained in a clean and orderly manner at all times. That's what
Done.
you were referring to.
This, Madam Chairman, this is where
Yes.
this is where I would insert the new one.
Okay, where?
At,
6.
make number 4, 5, make number 5, 6, and number 4 becomes the, the proffer is an offer, but in this case, it becomes a condition.
Okay,
So that would be the language about property will not be rented for periods less than 30 days. Is that what I call it?
ADU, ADU,
ADU,
ADU.
ADU
the
Will not
ADU will
be-
not be rented.
Yes,
for periods less than 30 days.
yes.
Okay.
That's the town code, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm adhering to town code.
And
On the
ADU
ADU.
stands for additional dwelling unit.
Correct.
Just so
okay,
everybody's clear.
okay. Now that does mean though that your primary residence, you could short-term rent.
Just like anyone can today, yes.
Okay, with a permit.
That's by right, yes.
Yes, okay.
Or I guess it's permitted, yeah, special
It's
use by
permitted.
by town council, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna allow that. I'm not proffering,
Okay.
you can't do that.
Okay,
Just like everyone else in this room has the right. I want to have the right to do that too.
okay. And then number 4, the new, or I'm sorry, number 5 becomes if the owner or applicant violates any of the conditions above or fails to adhere to the representations set forth in the application and supporting materials, this special use permit may be terminated upon notice being given the applicant and hearing by town council. And number 6, this ordinance shall be recorded in the Middlesex County Clerk's office by the property owner. The property owner shall provide a stamped copy of the recorded ordinance to the town administrator. And I think
Yeah,
those
that's
were the
fine.
ones that were,
I can't think of anything else.
okay.
Sorry, I talked for a little bit.
No, no, you're fine. You're
I just want to
fine.
make sure we're clear, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to answer anything
Yeah.
else too. Sorry, you
Vicky,
came in right.
You're coming late to this, but do you have any questions? about
No,
this?
I'm not at this point, no.
Okay, because we're, what other discussion or questions do we need to have before? Okay, so public comment. Kate,
All
thank
right,
you very much.
thank you. Yeah, of
Uh-huh.
course. No problem.
Yeah, Mr. Lapinski. Okay, so public comment period, and I believe it's a 5-minute limit. Is that correct,
That's
Christine? Okay, and so she'll be timing you. First person is Lisa Powers. And if you would come to the podium and state your name and your address.
Sure. My name is Lisa Powers and I live at 210 Colorado Avenue. So if you're looking at the back of my property, the property we're talking about is Catty Corner. Excuse me, getting cold. I think a lot of my questions have already been answered. I think what I'm concerned about is Zach and I had, I appreciate that he reached out to the neighbors in the community to tell us what he was going to do. My understanding that there would be a garage building with an apartment on top. The first time that I heard that there's a second building was tonight. Now, we live in Urbana part-time. We'll be moving to Urbana full-time next Tuesday, hopefully. So, but we've had our house for about 17 years. So we've been a part of the community for a long time in my view, and love it and really love the neighborhood. So I'm concerned that this plan and what has been discussed could also change. And I don't know what happens now if it goes in front of the town council. I know Zach has to get some permits, but I think really being truthful with the people in this room, the people who live in that neighborhood and love it and care about it, I think would go a long way. And so I'm a little surprised and taken aback by talk of a second property, but we'll see what it looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just so that you know, this feels very awkward. It feels awkward for us too, but it's not a discussion. It's public comment. So it's your opportunity to have public comment. So thanks for your patience with that. And, again, it's standard procedure. Yeah. Okay. Second is Lisa Wiggins. And if you would do the same thing, come to the lectern, state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Lisa Wiggins and I'm at 190 Colorado. And my property backs up to the property that we're talking about. My concern is actually several. You have 2 buildings and you have 1 parking area. That's going to be, if you're having multiple people there, where are those people going to park? I have a driveway and I have enough problems parking my family when they come to visit. So that's a big concern. And things have changed from when we all talked to Zach. The other concern that I have is I did not know about this meeting or anything about what was going on with this property aside from our conversation. If it hadn't been for Lisa calling me this afternoon asking if I got the certified letter, which I did not. So we need to do a better job of making sure that all the parties concerned get notified. Here again, our property backs up to that property. So I do have concerns about what will go on there and how it will be maintained and managed. So thank you for your ability to listen to us and take our concerns into consideration.
Thank you. Vicky Satterwhite, did I get that right? Yes. Is it Satterwhite? Okay, yes. And again, your name and address.
Vicky Satterwhite, I'm at 150 Colorado. So our house is catty cornered on that same block where the proposed building is going to be. And you could see everything from our back deck, I guess, or porch or whatever. I was looking at the information up there where it says staff finds per 17-9.4, the Urbana Town Code. The proposed use would not have an adverse effect on the surrounding neighborhood. I don't know that I totally agree with that, and that's why I wanted to make a comment about it. In that little corner of the world, we're a very close-knit area, just like all of Urbana is. And we have watched I've been here for 10 years, going on 12. We've watched the amount of traffic and the amount of people that are not living in the neighborhood, zipping around that corner because it's just such a small area back there. And there are several Airbnbs that are back there, so people are not obeying the town laws. And I'm concerned that if we do have another rental situation, we will just get more people that don't obey our town laws, and that has an adverse effect on the neighborhood. That's my concern, is that if it becomes a rental or an Airbnb, it's going to cause congestion that is going to affect our neighborhood in an adverse way. And I hope that's not going to be the case, but I just appreciate your understanding and your listening. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. And finally, Patsy Panis? Panis. And again, your name and address.
I'm Patsy Panise. I live at 191 Taylor. I am not an adjacent landowner. However, could you go back down and go more toward the top of where those thingies were?
Can you tell her what you're looking for?
I'm looking for where it had what the dwellings need to have, the dwellings we're going to have in them.
The picture?
No,
Oh.
no.
Right there.
So the existing building would not be a complete dwelling unit due to its lack of cooking equipment or its use as a separate living unit. What does that mean?
That is the existing building on the property right now. That's
So-
going to be
Be torn
torn
down.
down.
Right. So that, I believe it's a wooden structure.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. Someone said it was cinder block.
It's in there as cinder
So
block.
it's
Okay.
in there is cinder block. but I
Okay.
think it's a cinder
So,
block
so we're going to
foundation.
tear down just a regular old building and now put up 2 living units, basically. My concern is also the congestion down at this end of town. Speed limits are not enforced. I've written letters to the editor. I've called the police department to ask for more surveillance down there. So these 2 dwellings presumably will have 2 people that will have each a car, maybe more than 2. So we're looking at least 4 cars on this small area. And the congestion is already being felt pretty significantly by everyone down at that end of town. Especially cars coming down Cross Street. I appreciate that the egress will be off of West Street. But I'm not sure how much that's going to slow down. It's almost like we need a stoplight down there now, and I don't want to see a stoplight in Urbana. So my concern is also, the property being rented, so many properties. I mean, does the town make anything besides just the taxes? Or is it taxed like food and beverage? Are Airbnbs taxed? The citizens of the town who pay, rent and mortgages and everything else, just like you would do, which I, appreciate. If you're making an income from an Airbnb or a short-term, long-term, whatever rental, is any of that coming back to help Urbana, the coffers of Urbana, which we pay not only, as you know, Urbana and county. So it's significant. And with two dwellings and with no right now actual sizes of what it's going to look like, I think it should still be open for discussion and for some more discussion about what the ultimate outcome is going to be. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and this closes the public comment period. And now we head to commission
I
discussion.
think the
So,
applicant gets to respond, right?
The applicant,
Yeah,
Okay.
Legally.
okay,
and I'd like to clear up one point too.
okay,
You can go.
all right,
Yeah,
Okay.
you go.
Me?
okay.
All right, so I'll answer a couple questions. So traffic and parking. So can you go to the plat by chance? I don't know who's got the clicker. So if you look at our plat, so I understand, again, I've got property on Cross Street. I'm a taxpayer. I just paid my taxes too. I get paid twice. I'm doing it. So I'll be paying double on this. So I'll be paying 2 and 2, but also with traffic, you mentioned with off-street parking it sounds like might be a concern. Well, our driveway, our setback is at least 40 feet off the street. VDOT standards on a parking space are 9 by 18.
Mhm.
So this is a 16-foot wide minimum parking, probably 18 by 40 plus. 40 is your cutback from here, your 40-foot setback. So you can actually fit 4 cars by VDOT standards on this driveway. So that's just a one clarification. Again, I don't know if other parking, I can really kind of answer, I guess it's comment right now, but I don't have a proposed parking structure for this, but part of the review process with Middlesex building inspections is they have to review the plat, and I'm sure they have to check traffic counts and building code and so on and so forth. So I don't know exactly, that's a code question for the county. I don't know when that will be brought up, but that's something I'm happy to talk through if there's any concerns on a secondary unit. But right now, like alleviation, you spoke for 4 cars, like legally by VDOT standards, we meet the 4-car minimum off-street parking. So that's one. We kept bringing up Airbnbs. Airbnbs are something you have to get a special use permit through the town with. It's not like I have a by right ability to go in and say, hey, I'm going to Airbnb this tomorrow and put it online. I have to come back in front of town council. There's a formal process. I think there's a fee you have to pay, if I'm right. A fee, a special fee, maybe taxes.
Yep.
You get a certain percent of
Both.
revenue on it.
Both.
So the town does get the money back. But that's not something I have the ability to do by right. I have to go back in front of town council or planning commission or one of the special groups, and I have to physically take the application, pay for the application, apply back for the town with it. So I don't have any ability to just go put this willy-nilly on Airbnb and say, hey, anyone and their mother can come use this thing. I don't have any legal right. I can be fined, I'm sure, or held in contempt from the town for doing so. So I don't have any right to doing that. Worried about the size. Sizes are shown. I'm more than happy to proffer my same thing with inside my application. It calls for the dwelling unit to be a 26 by 26. So I am restricted to using that. If not, it says the special use permit, I think, is null and void if it's not held within the standards. So like that, that I am restricted on. And everything else I'm restricted on size due to the building code and the zoning ordinance of where and what I can place a building along with fire code. So I have to meet back the zoning requirements of what's stated in the town guidelines to show me exactly what and where can be put in certain scenarios. With setbacks, same thing with fire code. And there's a whole other bunch of rules and laws throughout the process, but that kind of helps define the how and why you can, like, I couldn't go on here and put a 100-foot by 100-foot building. I can't legally, I have no legal right to be able to do that. I'd have to come in and ask for a variance in front of town council and apply and all those things. Speed limit, I have no control. Yeah, I don't have anything I can do on that. It's a VDOT, or actually I think the town owns a road, so I don't, or Middlesex does. I don't have any control. I think that's answered everything. I just wanted to address those few things. My rental intentions.
Public hearing's been closed, Madam Chairman.
Yes. Okay. All right. And town administrator had a clarification.
On the road that we've just discussed, the roads are state maintained roads. And any enforcement has to be done either by state police or the sheriff's office. Okay. The questions about, I think Mr. Lapinski's answered them, but I'm going to answer them from the town perspective. So business licenses are applicable to short-term rentals. So we do collect a fee and they have to report, and we collect a percentage of the money that comes in off of short-term rentals. Now, if it's long-term rentals, we're not involved in that. So this is for the short-term rentals, the B&Bs, those types of things. That's a business license with monthly reporting and a percentage that comes into the town. The other concern I had, and I spent some time with the file, we use the county's GIS to determine the adjacent property owners. And I'd be honest with you, I probably over notified on this request. We sent out, there were 10 adjacent property owners, 2 of them were compatible. So we sent out 9 letters. We have 7 signed receipts. We have 1 letter returned. We have 1 letter outstanding, but we used the the records from the county to send these notices. Mr. Lapinski wanted to send the notices. I said, nope, you don't do that. We do that because the code requirements are very precise about how many days ahead of a meeting you can send it, how many days, you've got a window. You've got so many days before and so many days right before that the notice has to go out. And we try to push it to the front end of that. If the records at the county are wrong, the records at the county are wrong. But for the record, participation in the hearing without having received due notice negates not receiving due notice. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Are we ready now for commission discussion?
Can I ask what he meant by that last statement? I don't understand.
So when someone says that they didn't receive notice,
Okay.
but they're attending the meeting and they're participating in the meeting, then they've waived their argument that they didn't receive notice.
Because they knew to come.
Okay. Even if they didn't receive written
Right.
notice.
And if they didn't receive it, doesn't mean that the town didn't send it.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. That's true.
yeah, they're very
That's
true with our
Yeah,
post
I mean,
office.
I have
All
the,
the post offices, yeah.
and we have to send, currently under current law, we have to
Yeah.
send these certified,
Yes,
and it's $10
each
for
one.
every one to go from one PO box in the same building to the next PO box.
Now that is changing.
That's
July
changing
1st.
July 1 because of
July
some
1.
legislation that we
Yeah.
put in. Yes.
That way you can know the post office didn't lose.
Oh,
They'll, under the new law, they'll be sent first class with an affidavit. So
okay.
it'll save the town, about, well, almost $9 a shot.
Yeah, which may not sound like much, but there were how many? In this case, 10?
There were 10 in this case, and we've
$100.
seen as many as 15.
Yeah, we had one property that was $1,550 just to send notices. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what kind of discussion, what questions do you have that planning commission needs to discuss?
On the dwelling you're proposing and the garage, now the garage is not gonna have septic, water, sewer hooked to it.
Primary residences will, everything will have public utilities.
And how many bathrooms is proposed in the house? So if you have any idea?
One and a half in the first dwelling unit. Yeah, 1 to 1.5.
Okay. Oh, and I know it's on the record, I had a sewer issue on my street. And my concern with this, and the reason for my question is, there's in process right now 3 large homes being built in the town. And maybe this Ted can answer this. Does DRS have any request or any concerns about the hookups from the new homes, and then his would be on the same street as 2 others coming back up?
Right, Ms. Long, I had indicated that all the state agencies and contractors were sent information on this, and nobody came back with any comment other than just go through the normal process.
Right.
Which is like coming to us and getting a water meter. Going to VDOT for the residential entrance permit. Nothing,
Okay.
they didn't say it was going to break the system.
Right.
Yeah, I filed a request with HRSD. There's no concern for a tap fee.
All right.
Yeah, for capacity or sewer study or anything like that, they have no concerns.
Right.
So at this point, what is he allowed to do? You said you have to get a special use permit to do a short-term rental or a long-term rental? or
No,
both?
no.
That's
Go
not
ahead.
that's not the matter that's before us
Okay.
today.
Yeah,
The matter that's before us today is the permit to proceed with a primary residence and for us to at the same time permit the later building of an accessory dwelling unit. And because there's no size limit, if he starts with the smaller unit, apparently according to our ordinances, that counts as the primary residence. If he builds a larger unit, which it looks like that's at least what the thinking is, a larger unit second, that would become the accessory dwelling unit by definition in our ordinance. That's as I understand it. He has said that he would proffer that he would not use the ADU, but not the residence, the primary residence. But if he builds the ADU, that it would not be rented for less than 30 days. But he does not want to give up the right to make a decision about the primary residence. Now, remember that once the other larger property is built, that's the ADU. And that the smaller one that it sounds like would be built first. And I thought it was over a garage, but it's not going to be over a garage. It doesn't sound like. That the smaller one he would then be free to apply for a short-term rental permit if he chose to, because that's his right as a citizen. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, whatever's built first is the primary residence. Whatever built second is the ADU. I proffered that the ADU will not be used as a short-term rental. Just as everyone in this room has the right
Right.
to rent their primary house right now as a short-term rental, I'm not going to give up my right to do so. So
what other discussion? Gary, what?
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready for our decision? And what do I need to do? Okay, so,
The commission's options are either to
Mhm.
make a recommendation
Yep.
to approve with the 6 conditions,
yes,
or recommend denial. Or you can take up to 60 days to make a decision.
okay, and do we decide which one of those we're going to,
That's in your motion.
okay, or so it's in my motion.
Well,
so I decide.
it's in the commission's, whoever wants to make the motion, it's
Okay.
up to them. to-
Okay, I want to make a motion to move that the town council approve the 2025 special use permit application 01, granting a special use permit to Zack Lapinski, Hallinski Properties LLC for construction of an additional dwelling unit above a storage area in a detached 26 by 26 accessory structure, anticipating construction of a single-family primary residence. Tax map number 20A-27-C consisting of 0.27 acres located in zoning district R1 with the recommended conditions 1 through 6.
Second. Right, you have-
Mhm, I moved second. Any discussion? Okay, well, I've got discussion because this is specifically above a storage area. But if there's not going to be a storage area or garage.
do you want me to answer? Storage and garage are two different things on
Okay.
building code.
Okay,
So I don't know what's the question, I guess.
okay. Is it a storage area
On-
that you're discussing?
The secondary, hold on. Let's back up one more time.
Additional dwelling unit above a storage area.
Yes, that should be
In
a type. Why is that?
26 by 26.
Why is that Tad typed that way in the application? Do you know? 'Cause that's not what should be what's in the application, just should be for an ADU. Doesn't dictate the size of the ADU for the application.
That may have been pulled from one of our emails.
But I
Yeah.
don't think, that's not.
That's not, the question is.
Well, there are two questions.
Okay, so yeah, let's
One
go.
Is it over?
It's over storage, whatever. It's
Well, it says ADU is requested to provide additional dwelling area in storage space. That's in the application.
Okay, this says above storage area. And it's calling the 26 by 26 the ADU,
yes,
not the primary residence.
I'm confused by that also.
Okay,
Well, and that's important because
Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah.
the conditions.
The by right, it's whatever dwelling unit is built first is the
Yes.
primary residence.
That would
and
mean that
whatever
you would
built-
be committed to building the
That's not what I've,
other residence.
and that's not what
first.
I've applied for.
But then I think we need to clarify
Yeah.
the conditions, because for example, you said you're not gonna rent the ADU.
Conditions are for the ADU,
Which would be the second.
which is the second building build.
Structure. The second
So
one
that-
he builds.
So the application should never have said 26 by 26 storage with a living above it. It should say for an ADU.
No, but my point is, you represented, for example, that you are gonna, of course, have the right to rent out your
Mhm.
personal residence. as a
Yes.
short-term rental.
Yes,
And,
if I get approved, yes.
right. But not the ADU.
Correct.
That gets kind of screwy if, in fact, the small one becomes the primary
Yes.
and.
Yeah, so the application should, I never notified which unit was the ADU. The ADU is the second building built. So the size doesn't matter.
Think,
I guess I'm
I think
confused on
perhaps, well,
the
I'm
question.
guessing that what happened is that this started out exactly as it's written, but then when it became apparent that the first building had to be the primary resident, then we need to rework it, which I'm not saying that there's anything nefarious about that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that now it doesn't fit the scenario that we're discussing.
I think you're more than happy to read my application that was submitted if you guys would like, but
I think we
it-
have it.
it doesn't notify on the description, the proposed change or use and change structures on page 2. This is allow for the by right use of a guest house or accessory building to be allowed to rent. Would like to build the accessory unit first, which becomes a primary unit with a larger main house at a later date.
Why
This would be a total of 2 dwelling units.
why isn't the,
I think it was just
Yes.
how it was written.
I mean, maybe it would be simpler.
No,
for
it
special
actually says
use.
the proposed ADU would reflect a 25 by 26 footprint.
What page is that on?
Top of the
It's
second
a
page.
14, well, 14 of our handout, but it's the second page of your
Second page of the
application at the very
application.
top.
I don't have it on mine.
It's at the very top.
But isn't part of the problem that the special use permit is for the
Secondary-
accessory, but it's
accessory dwelling
actually
unit.
contemplating both buildings?
The lot
And
is,
so it becomes confusing.
He doesn't need a special use permit to build a primary
Right, I
residence.
understand.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
so he's saying that the 26 by 26 or whatever is going to be the primary residence. And that's the one over the
Storage.
storage. And so that now is the primary residence, and the ADU is of undefined dimensions, but is limited to code and limited to zoning. I mean, it can't just build anything because that's limited by county zoning regulations. But it is not defined. Is that what we're talking
Correct.
about,
Correct.
Ted?
Yes. It's just the approval of an ADU unit on the property.
I have a communication here from Mr. Lapinski saying that there was an error on the plat and if he could move it up to 26 to 26. I have that if you need it. Okay,
Okay,
all right. But, and again,
instead of 25. to
you have to
26.
remember, we probably started talking about this in November, December, okay? And it flowed. But I recall it being that the building would be used for storage.
Yes.
And I just assumed it was all going to be storage on the first floor and the apartment or the dwelling unit on the second floor.
Correct.
So it's a ADU over storage.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, but that's not what we're talking about now.
I think we're getting caught up in
Building code.
building code issues and what's going to go where. I previously had myself a garage.
Yes,
had a-
as an ADU, but now that has to be called the primary residence.
But I've had an experience with a garage where there was a climate controlled room on the back that was used for storage. So I was one level, he's looking at 2 levels. Okay. I keep coming back to, it's the question of, don't worry about internal arrangement.
Yeah,
Do you
I'm not.
want, do you want, I'm sticking to the whole. Do you want, the question is, do you want to allow 2 dwelling units on one piece of property?
Okay, and the way that we have it defined, we're talking about the property that he's intending to build first.
Right. Which will.
But
which
that
built-
would be the primary residence,
When that gets built, that becomes the
the
primary.
primary residence. So
Yes.
that is not,
If that's,
so
that's
it
gonna be the
should
26 by-
be additional dwelling unit in accordance with zoning regulations or something.
Yeah, I think there's almost too much detail.
Yeah.
In
Uh,
the, in the.
So the
motion.
above the storage area
it
in a
doesn't make
detached
sense.
26 by 26, because I think that was the original intent, but because of the way our law is, it was switched in order to make it fit.
Well, it's a difference between what is it legally considered and
Yes.
what will everybody walking around the neighborhood
Yes,
and you think,
Yes.
which is, okay, that's your primary
residence and the
but
AD,
really,
but
this
technically,
is, right?
and it sounds like the law allows that by definition, so.
Well, it's just the legal.
Yeah.
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 It's not.
So how do we fix this, Ted, in the motion? Do we simply do we simply score above storage area in a detached 26 by 26?
that's probably the best thing to do because it,
Sorry.
my suggestion would be if you're inclined to approve it, is to simply say the motion would be to recommend approval of the case number 25 SUP 01 with the six
Mhm.
conditions
Mhm.
as discussed or proposed,
Mhm.
and just simplify it down to that.
What other discussion do we need to have before
Well,
I
can you-
withdraw the first motion and make a second motion?
Why not Ted do, well, I think then you're doing the same thing.
I think I am.
Yeah. In essence, you're taking out above storage area.
Yeah,
And it's attached 26 by
Right.
26
right.
accessory structure.
Okay, I make a motion to withdraw my initial motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote on that. Those in favor of withdrawing the initial motion?
Yes.
Yes. Katie?
And it's to say we don't pass it on to town. I'm confused.
No,
I'm-
it's as written.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry.
All right, so now I will make a motion. I move to recommend to town council the approval of 20-25 SUP application 01, granting a special use permit to Zack Lapinski, Hallinski Properties LLC for construction of an additional dwelling unit, anticipating construction of a single family primary residence. Tax map number 20A-27C consisting of 0.270 acres located in zoning district R1 with the 6 recommendations noted by the planning commission in this hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any further discussion? You look uncertain.
Yeah,
This is the
I'm
time
I'm still a
for
little confused though,
discussion.
and I'm new at this, so
You're okay.
bear with me. So you're gonna build a garage with an apartment above it?
He's calling it a storage area. with
Yeah,
an
it'll be
apartment
living
above it.
space above storage.
Okay, so that's gonna have water and sewer hooked to it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then you're gonna build another house, which would be a dwelling.
That would be the ADU
Okay. And.
at some
and-
point.
At some point. So in all, and it is confusing because now you're gonna call the garage with the.
That's the primary
that's the
dwelling
primary
unit.
Dwelling.
That's how we got.
Legally,
confused.
yes.
Yeah.
By law, yes.
But it looks like technically by law and by
So
ordinance.
could you build the
can do
house
that.
first and?
That would be,
eliminate all this?
then that would be the dwelling unit. That'd be the
Yeah,
primary.
right.
So whatever's built first is the primary dwelling unit.
But I guess our question is, are we gonna allow the 2 buildings on the property?
Yes.
That's what.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're addressing.
Yes. With the voluntary proffers I cited.
And with the statute that we have in Virginia on allowing accessory dwelling units. if you are not ready to vote, you can abstain,
Yeah.
you can decline, you can do whatever you wish. You
Yeah,
can,
I was gonna decline the vote.
you're going to decline to vote? Okay. Katie,
I don't know. I'm torn. Because I feel like if it's allowed in the law, we should pass it on to town council, but then I also hear the neighbors' concern, so I'm not. If we say vote to pass it on, is that saying we agree with it, or we just think it's worth additional hearing from town council?
question to Ted. We make a recommendation to town council.
You're
right?
making a recommendation to town council
For them to give him,
to either approve, deny, or approve with conditions. What the motion on the floor is approve with conditions.
Mhm.
Um, if you feel like you need more time, so be it. That's the other option you have, is up to 60 days. This is kind of getting in the weeds because we've advertised the public hearing. The planning committee, the council will hold the public hearing,
Mhm.
but they cannot vote on the matter until they receive your recommendation.
Mhm.
If you go past the 60 days, the recommendation goes up as favorable.
And then again, I think as planning commission, you can vote however you want. And yet we have law and we have ordinances that if we vote against those laws and ordinances, and there is a decision that is made that becomes appealable.
Can I,
Sort that out, make it clear.
No.
Okay.
I didn't mean that.
Okay.
No, I certainly hear the neighbors' concern,
Yes.
and I do think that in some of these corners of Urbana, we do have, I mean, I see in front of my house, people zoom by like
Uh-huh.
crazy people. And that area, you know, everyone loves Waterman's Park and they go through that area and it's a wonderful benefit. But certainly I think, you know, if I were on town council, Miss Town Councilwoman, one thing that the town should look at
Yeah.
is that traffic, and are there things that we can do to harass VDOT to make some changes?
That's part of the challenge is we don't own the roads.
And, but I think that while I understand the neighbors' concerns, I'm hesitant to not recommend this because I don't really see a basis for us to object to it. And it becomes a fairness question, and what do you do when, you know, I too would much prefer to see a pretty picture of a house that you're gonna
Mhm.
build and be excited about.
Yeah.
But, you know, when do we go into a world where I'm able to tell you, no, you need to paint it green, not blue, because I like green,
Right.
you know, and it's as landowners and as homeowners, we all have rights.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's a question of how we respect that.
well said.
Better said than I said it. So, Ms. Wilson, what's your,
I kind of feel like what you're saying, like I have mixed feelings, but I also don't feel like we should play God and say, well, you can't do this. I think we
Mhm.
should recommend it be looked into further and see, I mean,
what would be looked into further?
well, like
The
get
problems
another,
or,
I
Yeah,
mean,
what?
like, should we? I don't feel like we have enough evidence to say no to the
Mhm.
passing on to town council, I guess what I'm
Mhm.
saying.
Mhm.
Not that I'm saying I agree or disagree, but I don't think we should have proof that we should stop it right here, in my opinion. Does that
So,
make sense?
Can I ask
Am
a
saying-
question?
Sure.
The, where we're talking about, it's not part of the historic district.
No.
It's
correct?
not, I was
No.
thinking the same thing.
So therefore, for example, the house across the street next to Waterman's Park, there's, you know, the normal building processes, but there's no, nothing like the HARB that
Mm-mm.
looks at the design and
Colors.
decides, is this appropriate or not appropriate?
When you were talking about the color scheme thing,
Yeah, yeah.
I almost spoke up and said, if you were in the
Yeah.
Right.
historical district,
We would have.
then
to
you
look
could
at
talk color,
Yes,
Right.
I know.
but you're not.
But, so absent that, I think we're in an awkward position
Right.
where we have to hope people build nice houses.
Right.
So are you changing your vote?
No, I'll decline.
You're going to abstain. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Okay, if you, you can, you can decline, you can abstain, or you can approve that it be passed on to town council. There has to be a quorum for it to go on to town council.
And what would a quorum be? 3 out of 4?
Mhm.
Is it a quorum vote or a quorum?
Or with
attendance?
those present.
Of those present, yeah.
Do I have to be the first one to say something?
Because it's with you at this point.
I recommend it go on to town council,
Okay,
in my opinion.
okay. And so tell us what will happen at the town council.
I'd be happy to. So essentially, the public hearing will be called like it was tonight. We'll go over the staff report. We'll add the fact that the planning, we'll add that condition in. We'll add the fact that the planning commission, as I understand it, has voted to recommend approval with those conditions. Same process. After that, any questions of staff, then the applicant gets to do his presentation. Then it's the public hearing. People get to comment, close the public comment. Applicant has an opportunity to address issues. I have an opportunity to address issues, and then it's as council decides to ask questions, if they have questions, they can direct the questions to whoever they want to direct the question to, and the question has to be answered. It can't very often to, oh, I forgot to add type of thing. So it's basically a
then
repeat of
council
what
makes
you
the
saw tonight.
decision.
It's basically, and they would make the decision, but they have, from the date of the application to a decision, it's a 1-year time period. So we have a motion second and vote.
Mr. Long is abstained, Ms.
Mhm.
Wilson voted yes, so I need a vote from Ms. Hanson.
I already voted yes, and she voted yes already.
So then we're good.
We already voted yes. I thought you did.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
hear you
Yeah.
guys say it. That's why I
And
was
he
like, why am I the
I
one?
didn't think we did either.
Yeah.
I thought we just moved.
Yeah.
Didn't we just move? Yes, so we didn't vote.
Okay,
So vote.
okay, I thought we did. Okay, so let's take a vote.
Yes.
Ms. Lister?
No, I think, because I think you were starting with Katie to vote.
No, no.
That's what I
All right, so
thought.
you have
No.
your motion, you have your second. This is the vote.
This is the vote.
Okay.
And so how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, I vote yes. Mr. Longest, he abstained,
I vote yes.
and Ms. Wilson voted yes. Okay. And I believe that closes the
That
public
matter.
hearing.
We've got just a couple other matters to go over with you very
Okay.
quickly.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I
was so
didn't.
Confused. I was
No,
like,
that's
why
because
am I the one
you
that
already
said-
abstained.
Right.
He had already
He
abstained.
keeps saying it, then she's like,
I'm sorry for
Katie,
rushing.
well.
No,
I
it's okay. I
Okay.
just,
I
I
thought,
don't.
Well,
I
hey,
mean,
guys, it's
Yes.
been like, 5 months since you've been together, at least
Yeah, I
5
know.
months. So, you might be a little rusty. We're all a little rusty.
yeah,
Not a big issue. Just a couple of things real quick.
okay.
At your place, you should have your contact sheet. Adding Ms. Caskey and Mr. Longest.
They're
And,
supposed to look like yours. 'cause yours is
No, it's
smaller.
just this committee.
Oh, okay.
and then we have a product from the clerk, and I don't know if, hopefully you all have met the clerk by now. But Christine Branch is the clerk, started back in December,
Yeah.
November.
Christine
Tom-
Branch, and this is Ricky Longest. He's our new member.
Time flies when you're having fun. She has taken upon herself to do a planning commission bylaws, rules and
Mhm.
procedure.
Mhm.
So this is something for you to chew on, and at your next meeting, we'll put it on the agenda to see if you all want to adopt this.
Okay,
And maybe it'll kind of help the flow of the meetings a little bit better. Okay,
okay.
that's all I have, unless you all have questions or any issues for me. I'd be happy to take those at this time.
No, do I have, I make a motion to close the planning commission meeting?
A second.
Okay, and let's take a vote.
I vote to be closed the meeting.
Okay,
And I'll vote to close.
okay, I vote to close the meeting.
vote to
Okay, I
close.
mean, I just wanted to make sure this time.
Yeah.